Welcome to today's episode of the Heaven and Elle podcast. I am your host, Elle Edwards, founder of the Itchy Soul Playground and UEO Media, and I'm delighted to be here as ever. I hope that you are well and having a delightful day. Today's episode of the podcast follows on from what we were exploring yesterday. So if you haven't seen yesterday's or heard yesterday's, this will still make sense. It perfectly works as a standalone episode. But if you have a spare 10 minutes, I'd encourage you to go back and watch that one when you get a minute, because it all is part of an ongoing conversation. But today we're exploring acts of random kindness, because it occurred to me. So yesterday, I will say this bit because it ties in. Yesterday, I shared the story of how I was faced with the opportunity to be really grumpy with another driver or not, and I didn't. Yay. And this thought popped in my head that, when we act in that way, it is a physical example of resisting the evil enemy, devil, whatever language you want to use. But then I had an additional thought, which I'm going to share with you and we can explore together, because the additional thought was acts of random kindness. And this happened when I was driving along in the car again, and was waiting to come out, and the person let me out, and so I obviously said thank you and kept on going. And then there was somebody else who needed to come out, and I don't know if you've done this, but the number of times when I've been in the car and someone has done me a kindness and let me out, I kind of feel almost compelled, if I see someone up ahead of me, to let them out as well, then almost like a sort of a good peer pressure, because I know that the person behind me who already let me out will see that if I do or don't let them out, and then they might then think, oh well, I let her out, and now they're not letting other people out, and what's that about? But what the ripple from that though means that every time that we are kind to somebody, even in those small little ways, it adds this compulsion almost that we can choose to ignore, but we have this compulsion almost to repay the favour or to pay it forward. And so what if every time when we show up and we act with kindness, love, generosity, that then somebody else then will pay it forward, and then they'll pay it forward, and the ripples out from that. And then the follow-up thought was, well, actually, if, as we explored yesterday, if everything that is good and lovely and wonderful in this world is a reflection of God and the made in his imageness and the all the good, the light, the wonderful stuff, and if the opposite of that then is the enemy, is the devil, is darkness, whatever word you want to use, what if every time we show up and we show kindness and the ripples from there, that's people actually combating and shining light into situations where they might not have been there before, even when people don't know it. So you've got people who are acting with kindness and then paying it forward, and they are in effect helping to spread God's love and that kindness and the light and combat evil and darkness without even knowing it. That kind of blew my mind a little bit. I was like, oh, wow, that's amazing. Because the other thing then, the follow-on thought from there was actually, I was looking around as I was driving, I think it was yesterday or the day before, and looking around at people and how, we're told in Ephesians that there's the battle that we really wage is not against flesh and blood. It's with the spiritual forces, the things, the unseen things. And I was sort of pondering on that a little bit. It's been a kind of a deep week, can you tell? I was pondering on that a little bit though, and thinking about, well, when we see people, situations, circumstances, whatever that looks like, that's not good, that's, it might not be full-blown evil, but it's not kind, it's not nice, it's the opposite of good and lovely and kind and wonderful. It's like when those things happen, it's like, score one to the devil. But then when all the lovely things happen, when people are delightful, when they show up with love and kindness, that's like, yeah, God wins a point. Not that I think there's some great big scoreboard anywhere. Because then I was reflecting on the fact that actually, if you look around you, the reason why the not nice stuff kind of bothers us so much is because it's not the norm. It's not what we were made for. It's not how it's meant to be. And actually, even the people who don't yet let God love them, they can still be kind and loving and wonderful. And all of that makes a difference. And all of it, I believe, plays into this thing that we call life. And we've shared before this thought that God is really playing the long game. Like if I was God, technically however many thousands of years to get from making the world to then Jesus being born, and then the 2,000 years we've had since, that really is playing the long game, son. But thankfully I'm not God, and he knows what he's doing. But all of this stuff, there's just this thought that all of these things interacting together, and that you and I, just by simply showing up and being who God made us to be, being kind where we can. And that's not in a way of like striving and pushing and, I'm going to try really hard to be good today. It's not about that. It's about reflecting Jesus' love in those situations when we can. The other thought that just popped in my head now, thank you, Holy Spirit, please don't think that I'm suggesting that people just need to like try and be good. No, like Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. Everybody gets to know God through Jesus. So please don't, not that I'm saying they're going to, but potentially, the internet lives for a very long time. There is the potential that people are going to take that out of context. Ultimately, everybody needs to step into that relationship and have those conversations, whether that happens in this life or the life to come. I'll be quite transparent. Personally, when it comes to the scale of like theology stuff, I'm on the end where I believe that ultimately God's going to get his way and he loves everybody and will eventually love everybody into relationship. I know not all mainstream Christianity is going to agree with me, and I don't need to argue it with anybody. I'm quite content, because ultimately, like by showing up and being love and pointing people to God's heart, worst case if I'm wrong, it hasn't actually done any harm. It's still pointing people to God and how much he loves them. And so that's really a bit of an aside, but I don't want you to hear my words and say that I'm thinking that people can just try really hard to be good. It's about relationship. You were made for relationship. You were born to have those conversations. And so, that's ultimately what it's about. But it was just this fascinating thought, fascinating to me at least, and I want to share it with you, this fascinating idea that what if by every time someone just shows up and is kind and the ripples out from there, all of that makes a difference and plays into the way that God's love is expressed throughout the world. That was quite exciting to me, because it just showed to me that even those people that don't yet let God love them, he still loves them. He's still whispering to them and caressing them and trying to show them his heart. He doesn't change, his love doesn't change. But just pondering how that actually plays out and the ramifications from that, I just found it quite fascinating. And like I say, it does tie in with yesterday's episode as well, which is why this one will be a little bit shorter. But the real encouragement then is that actually you just stepping up and being you get to make a difference. This is not about trying to sort of save people. This is not about bashing people around with the head of the Bible. This is about you stepping into everything that God has for you today. Okay, God, what's next? What are we going to do today? Even if your list is short like mine is today, because I'm feeling very tired after my jab. It doesn't matter. It's okay. Like, God knows the kind of day that you're having. So walking that out with him, being kind where you can, God helping you. And of course that reminder, if this is stuff that is exciting to you, we've said before, it's not the norm. Come and join us in the Itchy Soul Playground, where you can have community and you can walk this out in community. We do have our next monthly get together next Wednesday, looking at the calendar, the 30th. So if you've been thinking about it and you've been on the fence, now is the time, because you get to come and meet everybody in Zoom. Just saying. umia.com/join is where you can do that. But in the meantime though, smile, have yourself a delightful day. Thank you for being here, and I shall catch up with you very, very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.